email, and emails go to any new record that are created. So if your organization is first added, you get an email the minute it's added. If you're going on there as a playwright, the first time anybody's put you on there, you get an email saying you've been put
So
there.
if I had added in something as under the radar, although I'm not the lead organization or the generative artist, will I get email updates about what's going on?
I don't know that we get sequential updates to changes in the record right now. We could.
It's just like Facebook.
Ask
They tell you
them.
every
Yeah,
time.
right. Someone just updated your style.
Somebody commented on your comment.
Somebody tagged you.
So I'm not sure that you get regular updates as to changes in the
Or
data, but we
the
should.
choice to get the updates, like once
Yeah,
a month or
we
once
could
a
look.
week.
Polly, Howron, and Pete, jump in here when you get a crack in the conversation.
So I mean, I'd love to just take a minute to talk about the impetus for HowlRound and
Yeah.
what I hope it will be for, because it's really for everybody in this room to access. You know, I just on a personal level had a real desire for more sustained kinds of conversations that I felt were not happening in the field. And a couple things happened. One was I started to research a book I wanted to write, and I started to go through all of these things, you know, every old conversation and old journals. And I was, you know, it's remarkable, Todd London will tell you this too because he's been doing some research, that we just sort of regurgitate the exact same things every 5 years. And they're actually identical conversations. Like I was kind of shocked at I'm like, actually we haven't had a new thought about new play development in like 40 years. I mean, it sort of freaked me out that I didn't know, like to access those articles, I had to hire a research assistant. You know, like it's a lot of work to find those pieces, you know, they're not, you just can't Google them, you know, I mean, you have to actually go research them. And so so what it seemed to me was we didn't have a place where we were keeping these kinds of sustained conversations. So that was worrisome to me because then what happens is we just keep reinventing the exact same wheels over and over and over again. So that was one thing. And then the other was I felt like, and I love the blog world, I think it's really useful. And I also think it's a place where you can say whatever you want at the top of your head and it doesn't require a lot of personal responsibility to know what you're talking about. And there's a use for that in the world. And then there's something called, you know, actually, you know, sort of thoughtful conversation and dialogue. And so and so I went to David and I said, you know, and then I did a bunch of research, like, well, what's out there maybe I don't know? Well, good luck finding a journal about the new play sector, really about the theater that actually has, you know, online, you know, really interesting articles. I mean, I actually couldn't find anything. And then there were a couple of journals I got on that Muse site. Good luck trying to get those sent to you. Like I couldn't even find, I wanted to pay, I had my credit card out, I was trying to enter my credit card, I couldn't get them, you know. So I went to David and I just said, you know, would the Institute be interested in a journal so that we could kind of foster this dialogue? I'd be willing to do it. And
But she had her credit card out. No.
I brought a credit card, and I saved for his credit card. And so what happened was so I put together an editorial board, Ed Sobel, Daniel Alexander Jones, Deborah Cullinan, and Jeremy Cohen, three of the four are here, and did a lot of conversations with Jamie Viget and David and said, you know, how could we do this? What would it look like? I mean, there was a lot of conversation, and then I hired a designer and a developer who I've worked with for many years because I said I want it to be cool. You know, I said I want people to go there. You know, I want people to find it accessible. I want them to be able to send and share articles. I want them to be able to subscribe. All those things you can do. And so what we're really hoping is, and then I want it to be rolling. So it's not like you have to find new content once a month, and I don't have the skills to produce a magazine. You know, I can't do something beautiful like this on, you know, every month because I don't have a whole staff. It's just me and a couple people who are helping me. And so I want to just upload new content every 2 or 3 days. And so we started 6 months ago generating content. I have about 30 pieces in the hopper. You know, I taught myself WordPress and GIMP and all these other things to be able to learn how to do this. And now, and we're just going to keep commissioning pieces. We have money to pay for pieces, which is just terrific. It makes all the difference in the world. And we're doing a rigorous, the editorial board can tell you this, it's rigorous. Like the first things I get often, you find artists don't spend a lot of time often writing about their own work. It's really a journal for artists to write about their ideas and their process. And so it's a lot of editing, and we've gone back and forth, and I need sometimes 4 or 5 drafts for it to be ready for the journal. And in the conversations that I just personally have been lucky enough to have, doing maybe 20 or 30 pieces in the last 6 months, it's changed the way I'm thinking about the theater. And so I hope the articles themselves will have that impact on you, and you can email me directly, editorial board, or on the contact page, editor@howlaround.com, if you want to pitch a piece. We're totally excited about that. So
I want to add one of my own thoughts in here, because I haven't spoken this entire weekend. But one of the things that I'm hoping that happens here is we're trying at the Institute to develop a documentation dissemination platform for all of us to use for all of what we're doing in the new play sector. And most of you who have major initiatives or even small initiatives that are funded in any way, you have some sort of obligation to document and disseminate the information. Well, we're trying to create enough tools that you don't have to think about how to do that. If you're just in the mix, if it's streaming on live New Play TV when it's happening, if you post an article updated on HowlRound or enter the blog world or put it on the map, that your documentation and dissemination work is being done by this platform. So there's now, a half a dozen different tools now that you can just get in the habit of using that will also become your documentation dissemination platform. And they're already being read by the people you owe that report to. So hopefully it helps on this other level of collecting the documentation, disseminating the information, and taking that piece of the work off of everybody's plate as a separate event.
That's great.
Oh, good. Use it. Pete. Pete Miller, board member for the map.
I think using geography as the first way to plant this data was a good choice. My hope would be that over several years, that grows into something where you can see the data through several different lenses. And potentially even a life of a play view, where it would be possible to view the paths of a number of different plays side by side, do pattern recognition and visualization around it. As you build this data, the most valuable thing is probably going to turn out to be some use of the data that's not envisioned at present.
Absolutely, I'm confident of that.
And so I think that's not a complaint about where it's starting. I think it's starting in a very good place, but that probably the real powerful potential is yet to be unlocked. And the only other thing I'll say is that in this realm, I've been fantasizing for years about an American theater database, somewhat parallel to the Internet Movie Database, where I could track not just plays and playwrights, but where has a particular actor been, where has a particular director worked, and be able to assemble sort of careers of people out of the individual data points of individual elements of work. For years, we had a fantasy of actually building one of those for Washington. We saved every program for anything we attended, and always had other things.
You and Sarah?
Yeah.
Let's just say,
I feel like
as a former career in this work as well.
Yeah, I'm an IT professional by background.
Yeah.
And
strategic that I put him at the table. Tell me what comes next.
And the last thing I would just say is, for all those communication technologies, like as you were showing the Twitter activity in the room, I heard a few of the more mature practitioners who were in the room saying, well, I'm too old for that. And for anyone who has that opinion, I wanted to apologize for my industry, because the only reason you feel that way is that these technologies are still kind of clunky and sort of hard to use. But it is so important that your thoughts also be entering these forums, that I would just urge everybody here and everybody in the field to kind of crawl over that a little bit, recognize that it's difficult and poorly designed, and I mean like the very best things out there, Facebook, Twitter, they're awful in an absolute sense, but figure out how to use them, because this is going to be an important channel for creativity and collaboration going into the future, and it's not that hard to get over the hurdles.
Can I? Really quickly, can I ask though, in this conversation about, Longworth, we just actually finished last year a database of the entire history of the theater that includes all the productions, every single creative artist involved in it. And it's an access database, so it's actually just raw data. And it's great that it's about new play development, but something you were saying was actually making me wonder as well. Is it possible to go backwards? Like, is it possible to actually input data of events that have occurred already so that we could actually reach backwards the last 10, the last 20, the last 30 years and see sort of how that process has either evolved, whether or not there have been more steps in the process of getting a play from its origin to the point of production, and actually see that visually?
That's a good question. You can put in date ranges of any year as far as I know. So there's no back too far or forward too far in that database. It hurts my heart to imagine that people are going to run on there and start typing their organizational histories in. I would really wait and see what we can do about importing and exporting data before you start doing that again, because I'm sure it doesn't peak, am I right? It doesn't have to be retyped.
Well, as long as you build the right load programs and you know, build some standards, not too hard to do. Yeah, you're right.
I have two things on just the sharing of information and how that changes collaboration. For our resident artists, we have a wiki that is just uploadable. It has the blueprint of all the different things that our artists need to access all the time. And when artists learn new things, they can go in and change it. And so it's like a living, breathing way to communicate among a community of artists. And just about, is there something in this community that we could share with each other that is those kind of documents?
And also you should talk about Made Here.
Yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to say.
Well, just along the same lines, I just want to mention something that we're exploring, because I'd love to know if people are interested in it. We, about a year and a half ago, in an effort to be green, we, you know, like many organizations, had always handed out these huge dramaturgical packets to our actors. And we decided to just create an intranet where we would put everything online that they could go to. We jokingly called it Dramapedia, and just put it up there so that people could look at it. We realized this year, as this thing keeps growing, we were doing a rolling world premiere of Sunlight, and we realized we could share some of that information so that organizations that did not have dramaturgs could actually use some of our information. I do think there's a possibility, perhaps linked to this, perhaps not, that we could share some dramaturgical information with each other, because certainly, you know, when a play is in its early development process, there's always some great work that's done on a play that maybe doesn't make it to the third production, and there's no reason that it can't. So we're exploring how to take that open source right now. We're in the early stages of pricing it out and just sort of seeing what it's going to take for us to build it. But.
You want to finish before I go?
Yeah. So Made Here project is a project that we've launched that is with 65 artists based in the 5 boroughs of New York City. Some who are here, Melanie, Universes, Anne Bogart, a wide range of emerging mid-career and older artists. And it's trying to deal with sustainability for artists living in our 5 boroughs. And it deals with real issues like family balance. And it's a webisode series. We release an issue each month with different episodes each week. And then we have a live event in one of the 5 boroughs.
What's the URL?
It's madehereproject.org. And what we're in the live events in each of the boroughs, we're drawing different communities than we get online. We've had, I think it's up to like 95,000 visitors since we launched it, and from 51 different countries. And we're really interested in how to roll it out nationally so that people, and the reason we started it was because we can only work with our 18 artists to create this conversation about how they're making their work and how they're surviving and extending the life of their projects. And we can't do more than that. So we came up with this idea as a way to move that conversation online so communities of artists can be talking to each other online, and there's resources of grants that they can seek or different kind of things. And so and it's starting to work, and there's conversations starting to happen, and I'm interested in what about in Chicago? Maybe there's 10 organizations there that want to get together. We worked with 15 organizations in New York to do it. Maybe there's 10 organizations in Chicago that could get excited about creating a local network online there, and one in San Francisco. And then how do they all reflect talking back to each other? And you make deeper communication about how all of us are making work.
It's striking me that this conversation, it makes it really